How's it going, folks? Welcome back to WrestleRant right here on the YouTube channel. I'm Graham Jason Matthews here today for my review of 2011's Extreme Rules event as seen, well, technically on DVD because I have it on DVD because it's such a great show and I love it so much. But you can also watch it on the WWE Network for only, well, actually free this month. I was going to say $9.99, but you can watch it for free for the next few days anyway. April is free WWE Network month, but only through the end of the month, and it is the 28th as I film this right now, or 27th, or something like that. I don't even know what the fucking date is. I think it's Tuesday the 28th as I film this. But nevertheless, 2011 Extreme Rules, like I said in my 2010 review, is one of my favorite pay-per-views, not in Extreme Rules history, not only in Extreme Rules history, but of all time. I love this show so much. You'll find out just why, and right now, going through this show. So kicking off the show itself was a last man standing match between Randy Orton and CM Punk. Now this was stemming from their various, altercations at the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, the great match they had at WrestleMania, which I thought was underrated. And this was another underrated matchup in Extreme Rules history. When you think of the greatest matches to ever take place at Extreme Rules, you think of Cena and Lesnar from 2012, I think it was. You think of Punk and Jericho from that same year, Bryan and Sheamus from that same year. You think of You think of Bryan and Kane from last year, Shield and Evolution from 2014. So many great matches in Extreme Rules history. Christian and Del Rio from 2011, from this year. But Orton and Punk, although it was not prominently placed on the card, it was an awesome fucking opener. I thought it was a tremendous matchup and a great way of closing out this feud. Now, granted, I wasn't overly enthralled with the fact that Punk lost every single match against Orton. I mean, granted, he did cost him the WWE title at Royal Rumble. He did eliminate him at Elimination Chamber inside the WWE Championship #1 Contenders Elimination Chamber match. And, but after that point, the Nexus and Punk was mostly dominated by Randy Orton in every single turn. Every member of Punk's new Nexus stable was strategically and methodically eliminated by Randy Orton week by week by week, leaving only Punk to fend for himself, who he lost to, having Orton lost or having Punk lose to Orton at WrestleMania. Okay, I get that. They had a rematch a couple weeks later on Raw with Orton winning that too, and then they would have one final match at Extreme Rules, Last Man Standing Rules, right before, I think this was actually right after anyway, that Orton got sent over to SmackDown. So this was the culmination of that feud. But yeah, a great match to kick off the show, although the feud itself, while it was solid, I was not really necessarily a fan of Orton winning every single match. The in-ring action itself was extremely entertaining. The use of the Singapore cane and everything else, the commentating table at ringside, these guys went all out and delivered one hell of a match to kick off the show. And like I said, while the feud was not fantastic, it was a really nice way of closing it out with no interference. I don't think there was any interference from the new Nexus. They were banned from ringside. So just leaving Orton and Punk to do their thing, no fucking interference to drag it down. And from an in-ring standpoint, really enjoyed it. The feud itself, not a huge fan of it. I liked it for the most part, but there were some aspects of it with Orton winning every single match that I was not very high on. And, considering the fact that also Punk went on to do the whole thing during the summer, you would think they would have given him more wins. But it was also kind of well known by this point that he was on his way out of the company. It had been well known since like April. So it was not really that shocking that he lost all of his matches to Randy Orton. But nevertheless, an excellent opener to the show. Up next, a tables match for the United States Championship with Sheamus defending against Kofi Kingston. Now, from what I understand, I think if I remember the build correctly, they had a match at the draft on that Monday night, or the previous Monday night, where Kingston beat Sheamus to get a draft pick for SmackDown. And then on SmackDown, I think Sheamus attacked Kingston or whatever, leading to an impromptu title match on this pay-per-view as made by General Manager of SmackDown, Teddy Long. And they were given a random stipulation. They were given a tables match. And tables matches, like with most stipulations, can either be really hit or miss. And I thought this one was a hit. I thought they made the most of it. They weren't given that much time, close to 10 minutes, a decent amount of time. And there was a lot of cool table spots, like a lot of cool, look, always got to avoid the table and stuff like that. It made for a really entertaining matchup, and I enjoyed it. I thought Kingston and Sheamus always had a really good matches together. They've never really had a full-on one-on-one feud. they've just kind of had various clashes from 2010 and 2011 and a few other years as well. Never really a full-fledged feud between the two per se, but whenever they had matches, they were always good. This was no exception. A great match from Kingston and Sheamus. Fun, what is what I would describe it as, with a great finish to a fantastic finish, with Kofi Kingston diving off of the top rope, doing a boom drop to Sheamus through the table at ringside, winning his second United States title. So it was kind of random. I mean, Kingston just won the fucking U.S. title. I mean, Sheamus really wasn't doing anything with the belt for the most part anyway, but they wanted to keep that championship on Raw. And I mean, the brand extension kind of died after the summer anyway. Even though they had the draft that year, the brand extension kind of died that summer with the Super Show gimmick. So, I mean, it really didn't matter what brand the belt belonged to, but nevertheless, I guess they wanted to keep it on a Raw guy after Kingston was drafted to Raw and Sheamus was drafted to SmackDown. So, yeah, Kingston, the new United States champion, a fun match with a really cool moment with Sheamus winning the belt. So, the only low point of the night, in my opinion, I was not a fan of this matchup, as many people weren't as well, the tag team country whipping match, pitting Michael Cole and Jack Swagger against Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross. Now, the sole aspect that I enjoyed this matchup for was the involvement of Jim Ross. I'm a huge Jim Ross mark, whether he's on commentary or wrestling or in a segment or whatever. More JR is a good thing in WWE, especially now that we don't see him anymore. And even back then when he was kind of semi-retired and they never really brought him in for much, it was always awesome to see JR and whatever they can get out of him. So, I mean, it was funny to see like Michael Cole doing the whole bubble wrap thing. Like, he made the most of the character. The heel character kind of jumped the shark at WrestleMania. But, and the feud itself was so fucking dumb. They should have just ended it after that train wreck of a match at WrestleMania 27. But they opted to continue it, and I was not a fan of Michael Cole winning here because you knew the feud would continue. And was it a terrible matchup? No, it was just kind of just dumb. A country whipping match, like, seriously. And then a year earlier, Jack Swagger was in an Extreme Rules match for the World Heavyweight Championship where he defended Randy Orton. And although he won on this show, oh, the mighty have fallen, was all I was thinking when watching it back and watching this at the time and whatever. But yeah, they made the most of it. Always fun to see Jim Ross, and it was cool to see him and JR. I think tag team for the first time ever. I don't know if these guys ever tag teamed in a match before. I know that, of course, they've done tag team commentary together or whatever, but I don't think I've ever seen them do tag team, wrestle in a match together before. So for what that was, it was cool. But the match itself was dominant, and I just hated to see that feud between Lawler and Cole resume for no reason at all. Up next, a Falls Count Anywhere match between Rey Mysterio and Cody Rhodes. Another good feud. Cody Rhodes really got a lot out of this feud in that, Rey Mysterio put him over at WrestleMania. I was never really the biggest Rey Mysterio fan. I always thought he buried people. I felt that same way about Big Show. I still feel that way about Big Show now. But, at least Rey Mysterio, you got to give the guy credit. At least in his final full year as an active competitor, he put people over. The guy was really, really good. Like, he had a really good series of matches with Cody Rhodes, including at WrestleMania and on this show. He put over R-Truth at Over the Limit. He put over CM Punk at Capital Punishment. He put over Alberto Del Rio on various occasions and helped win, him put over him as the WWE champion. He put over The Miz. He put over a lot of people in his final years with the company, which is why it pisses me off he never got a final farewell, the rightful final farewell that he deserved, but that's another rant for another day. But, nevertheless, though, I thought this was a really good match, and it really did live up to the stipulation of being Falls Count Anywhere, because far too often Falls Count Anywhere matches are kind of limited to the outside, like Falls Count Anywhere, they only go so far as to the outside of the ringside area or whatever, they never really go beyond that. And it just kind of defeats the purpose of the matchup. Thankfully, that was not what we got on this show. They went all the way through the crowd, into the backstage area. At one point, I think Rey Mysterio jumped off like a concession stand to do a splash or a seated senton, while Rhodes did the disaster kick. I think he jumped off a wall or something, leapt off a wall, bounced himself off a wall and hit the disaster kick or the natural disaster or whatever he calls it. And that was really cool. So, yeah, really good matchup. I thought, Cody Rhodes, although he lost on this show, really gained a lot from his series of matches with Rey Mysterio, kind of opening the eyes of the officials, that were kind of thinking to themselves, I think it's time to put the belt on him. They would eventually put the Intercontinental Championship on him a few months later, kind of reuniting him with with his former tag team partner, Ted DiBiase, for a time. So, Cody Rhodes, his year was 2011, beating Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. The face mask gimmick, I would have wished like the stipulation on the show would have been mask versus mask. That was not the route they ended up going in. It would be another 7 months before they would finally take that fucking mask off of him. And it gave him some character development. It just got really old after a while. The paper bag thing was funny, especially when he would give paper bags to Booker T on commentary. But although that character, that persona overstayed its welcome, you got to give the guy credit for making the most out of it and having a lot of good matches with even Ezekiel Jackson of all people later on that year, and John Morrison and all these other guys, Booker T, Randy Orton. 2011 was the year of Cody Rhodes, in my opinion. Along with CM Punk and all these other guys, you could say Del Rio, whatever. Cody Rhodes was an underrated player in 2011. This match is pure proof of that, in a strong showing against Rey Mysterio, which again I thought was a very good matchup. Up next, one of the few women's matches that I've enjoyed, like pre-NXT and stuff like that. I'm talking about main roster here, people. And don't take that as like a bashing of the Divas division, because it's not their fault. It's the fact they're not really booked properly. But, before the series of matches, and even including this, they were kind of disappointing. Before the series of matches between AJ and Paige and all the recent matches that we've gotten in NXT, there weren't really many matches for the last 5, 6, 7 years that stood out in my mind as being great. Like, we would have the occasional Mickey versus, I don't even fucking know, Mickey versus Beth match, Beth versus Natalya, and stuff like that. But for the most part, you really didn't get many of those matches. They would just kind of be 4 or 5 minute matches, and they really weren't all that great. They were just kind of forgettable at best. And this was a 5-minute match. Don't get me wrong, this was not an instant classic. But I enjoyed this matchup. Some people called it shit and they didn't enjoy it. I don't know. Personally, I thought this was a really good match between Layla and Michelle McCool. It was a no count-out, no disqualification match where the loser had to leave WWE. So an interesting trivia note here, of course, the split between these two was a long time coming. Laycool lasted a lot longer than they should have. And they were great heels. They just got really annoying. They got heel heat, but sometimes it was go away heat because it just got really annoying and people just did not want to see them on their TV. But they had formed in, I think, 2009. They had lasted 2 years, and the breakup finally started happening in the spring of 2011. So as they were wrapping up their time together, they filmed a segment on some episode of SmackDown. I think it was the Go Home episode of SmackDown, right before Extreme Rules, and they did some promo where Layla challenged Michelle to a Loser Leaves SmackDown matchup. Now, it was revealed a couple days later. And I guess Michelle McCool, right after that segment, after it was already taped, and Layla saying loser leaves SmackDown, I guess they might have to go to Raw or whatever, they had to retape it, or they had to redub it, because Michelle McCool gave her notice that she was leaving the company. It might have been known by her for a while, but the company didn't know, otherwise they would have taped it to begin with. So they had to overdub Layla saying that. Of course, SmackDown's a pre-tape show, so they had time to do it. And they had her saying loser leaves not SmackDown, but rather WWE. Because Michelle McCool was retiring from in-ring action. So they changed the stipulation. Of course, because of that, it became pretty much obvious who was winning here, Layla. But, for the 5 minutes they were given, I thought it was a good match. It was pretty well wrestled, both ladies hitting their finisher. The crowd was not really all that into it. But, for a split of a long-time standing faction, regardless of what your thoughts were on the Laycool faction, on how long they lasted for and how annoying you may have thought they were, like I did, it was a pretty good payoff. It was a solid payoff. It wasn't like they were together and then 1 week Michelle McCool wasn't there anymore. Like AJ Lee gave her notice and they didn't really write her off or anything like that. Maybe it was the fact that she didn't want to wrestle anymore, whatever. But, at least with the divas like Michelle and whoever, she had a very good signing. She had a very good final farewell from the company in this good match with Layla facing her one of her best friends, both on screen and off screen. So a good match. Layla wins. Michelle McCool gone from WWE. And that's not all. After Michelle McCool, she's seen, after the matchup, she's seen sitting in the ring, crying, whatever. And then the music of Karma hits. And the video packages for Karma, a.k.a. the artist formerly known, or now once again known as Awesome Kong in TNA, had been airing for a few weeks coming out of WrestleMania. And no one really knew that she was going to be debuting on this show. I had completely forgotten about it. But when I heard that music hit, I started marking out. Because there has never been one woman that I've been more excited to see in WWE. I was so excited to see Paige debut, but nothing beats my reaction when they signed Awesome Kong in late 2010. And months and months and months passed that she, I'm thinking, is she going to debut here? Is she going to debut here? whatever, and she never did, and she finally debuted on this show, laying out Michelle McCool on her final nights, and Michelle McCool, doing the favors, in a way, for not only Layla, but Awesome Kong Karma as well on her first night in WWE. And the crowd reacted very favorably to that. I thought it was a great moment and an awesome debut for Karma. And like I said, I was marking out because it was so fucking cool to see Karma in WWE. And of course, later they would squash it. It was not all WWE's fault because it was just bad timing with Karma getting pregnant and whatever else. And they just had a really cool thing going with her, and she got pregnant, and she would never be seen again. Other than a brief one-off appearance in the 2012 Rumble, she was gone for the most part. But still, though, a really good debut for her, though, taking out a notable diva on her way out of the company and making a great first impression. So a good match from Layla and Michelle McCool, a good final match in the career of Michelle McCool. And as one woman leaves, another one comes in, an awesome debut, an awesome arrival for Karma. So up next, a ladder match for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship, and you already know the backstory of this one. Edge, following his successful world title defense at WrestleMania 27 against Alberto Del Rio, was scheduled to face Del Rio in a rematch at Extreme Rules for the World Heavyweight Championship. However, 8 days following WrestleMania, Edge had to announce his abrupt retirement from the ring due to his, neck issues and whatever else. So he could not wrestle anymore, period. Not one more match, not one more beatdown, whatever. He was done. So they had to write him off, so he had to vacate that World Heavyweight Championship. It was put up for grabs in a ladder match at Extreme Rules. And then I guess the match between Del Rio and Edge was going to be a ladder match anyway, so that remained the same. Del Rio was already due a rematch at Extreme Rules, so he was already in that matchup. Christian won a number one contenders battle royal, so we got that matchup at Extreme Rules. So it wasn't like they put just two random players in there that really had nothing to do with the previous story told between Edge and Del Rio. Christian was the best friend of Edge, and was, stood by Edge's side not only at WrestleMania, but throughout the entire feud, throughout his entire career for the most part, but throughout the feud with Del Rio. And Christian had his history with Del Rio as well. It was Del Rio that took Christian out of action maybe 6 or 7 months before this in the fall or September of 2010. So that had been a long time coming. They had a lot of really good TV matches and steel cage and stuff like that, leading to this match on pay-per-view. So I knew, after their great no disqualification matches and steel cage matches and whatever, they always had a lot of good chemistry together. This match was no different. And maybe this matchup just holds a special place in my heart because I'm such a Christian mark. I'm such a peep for Christian. And, I've always enjoyed his entire career, and I thought it was a long time coming. And there was speculation that Del Rio was going to win. And they just put Christian in there to tell a good story, and Del Rio was finally going to get his big world title win and whatever. And in the end, it would be Christian. I don't know, I just thought the emotion about this matchup, one of the more emotional matches, and it's not like I broke down crying watching this matchup, but the emotion that Christian showed, and, Del Rio being such a great heel, he was still on fire. I mean, some people might cite him losing as, might pinpoint his loss at WrestleMania as being his downfall. I said it then, I'll say it now, I thought his official downfall came at Night of Champions, when he dropped the belt to John Cena. 5 weeks after winning, and that was completely fucked up. But long before that, though, he was still as great of a heel as he ever was, and he was still on fire, having great matches. Again, this matchup, a pure example of that, having a great outing against Christian. And an awesome ladder match, too. Easily one of the better ladder matches in recent memory, in the last 5-10 years. Because, including Jericho and Michaels from the 2008 No Mercy pay-per-view, the best ladder matches are the ones that tell a great story, and they warrant a ladder match. Like Ziggler and Luke Harper had a really good ladder match, but they didn't really have much heat going into that pay-per-view. I know they were feuding, but I didn't really give a shit who won. The in-ring action was incredible, but there was no real story there. As opposed to Jericho and HBK, or this matchup, there was a story in place. Christian ascending the ladder both figuratively and literally to his first World Heavyweight Championship, in which he would. Del Rio was ascending the ladder only for Christian to push it over after Edge came out and stole one of Del Rio's cars and distracted him, beeping the car. So Del Rio got distracted before he could win the title. Christian pushing over the ladder, landing right on top of Ricardo and Brodus at ringside. Brodus got busted open. It was nasty. And I think he was written off of TV, not only because of the injury, but also because I think he had to go film not See No Evil, like No One Lives or something like that. So he had to go film a movie. So they wrote him off of TV after a while after he got busted open. So all the heels are down and out at ringside. Christian ascends the ladder to win his first World Heavyweight Championship. an amazing moment. Whether you're a Christian fan or not, it was a great moment for everyone in attendance, for Christian, for the casual fan, to finally see him get his due as World Heavyweight Champion. So I'm not going to go into the aftermath of the 2-day title win, or the 2-day title reign, or the 5-day title reign, whatever, however you want to recognize it, of Christian. I'm not going to get into that here because I'll talk about that maybe when I review. I actually already reviewed 2011's Over the Limit pay-per-view, the subsequent pay-per-view to this one, if you want to check it out, already here on the channel from WrestleRant from last year, cheap plug. I did not review Capital Punishment or Money in the Bank, or, I did review SummerSlam, but whatever. I'll probably get into it at another time. You already get, anyone that's a fan of, Christian or whatever, we all share the same thoughts, so you don't need to hear me ranting about the 2-day title win of Christian. But still, for one night only, though, I thought it was amazing. An amazing moment and one of my favorite moments as a wrestling fan from the last 7 years. Just an incredible matchup, an incredible moment, and the highlight of the night for me. It should have been in the main event, like this being not being in the main event. I'm like, oh, Del Rio's going to win. And then Christian won, and I was so happy. So awesome stuff. Up next, a nice little filler match here, a Lumberjack tag team match for the WWE tag team titles, pinning the then champions Big Show and Kane. So even in 2011, these guys were allies. And of course, in 2006 as well, so like 9 years goes by and nothing changes. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So up next in this match, we'd have Big Show and Kane taking on the core members, Wade Barrett and Ezekiel Jackson, for the tag team titles. Match lasted all of 4 or 5 minutes. It was pretty forgettable. The Lumberjacks were like, WWE superstars caliber guys, the David Hart Smiths and NXT Redemption guys, and whoever else. They were, these losers, these jobbers at ringside serving as the Lumberjacks. And the only real purpose that this matchup served was kind of teasing tension between the core members, Barrett and Ezekiel, who would face each other for the IC title at Over the Limit. I think the split was actually solidified like the following week on SmackDown. I think Ezekiel beat Big Show or something like that. And then after the matchup, they would split from Ezekiel. So the split was pretty rushed, but it would start on this show with them failing to capture the tag team titles. So that was that. I mean, again, no one really cared, but it was a nice little filler match between the two main events. And in the main event for the WWE title, a triple threat steel cage match with The Miz defending against John Morrison and John Cena. So, I mean, to get to this point was a bit weird. It should have just been Cena versus Miz straight up. But I thought the involvement of John Morrison was great. Because considering the fact it kind of planted the seeds for his feud with R-Truth, because originally R-Truth was supposed to be in this matchup. Thank God that was not the case. I really had no desire to see him. I mean, granted, I know he would get a main event pay-per-view match against Cena a couple months later at Capital Punishment, and that probably would have made more sense. But I don't know, I just love seeing Morrison and Miz in a main event, a pay-per-view together against the face of the company. Like, Miz and Morrison were this random tag team 4 years earlier thrown together as the Dirt Sheik, as, creative had nothing for them on ECW of all places. 4 years later, one of them is the WWE champion, and the other one is contending for that WWE title in the main event of a big pay-per-view with the face of the company, John Cena, also involved. That's a pretty big fucking deal. So that's why I enjoyed this matchup as much as I did. And I thought the in-ring action was very entertaining too. I thought Miz and Cena and everyone else played their roles very well. John Morrison, I think, hitting a Starship Pain either off the top of the cage or off the side of the cage or something. But it was a really cool visual. And John Morrison, although he came close to winning the gold, he was close but no cigar after R-Truth, who he had just started feuding with a few weeks earlier, came into the cage. And again, steel cage matches I'm not always a fan of because we always see a lot of interference involved, which is kind of defeats the purpose of the cage. But R-Truth came in, laid out, I think, both Cena and Morrison, but specifically Morrison, costing him the WWE title. And that would be that. John Cena would later hit an AA from the top rope. I think it was the top rope, but it definitely wasn't off the top of the cage. Off the top rope to Miz to win the WWE title. And although it was one of those moments, John Cena's a champion again. Oh, God, not again, It was 10 months, and they didn't really acknowledge this before the show, so you knew that it meant that John Cena was winning here. But this was, I don't think it was John's, I think it might have been his 10th World Championship. It wasn't his 10th, I don't even know, actually. I think it might have been his 10th world title. I don't know if it was his 10th WWE Championship. I'm not exactly sure, but whatever. And that, yeah, the match. I don't even know what I was supposed to say. Oh no, yeah, I forgot. John Cena was, him winning wasn't like one of those moments like, I've been there, done that. It had been long enough since he last held the championship that it wasn't really that big of a deal. It was a good moment. People were happy about it. Miz had his run as WWE champion for like 4 or 5 months. He had a pretty good reign as champ. He served his time, so to speak, and then you moved into the rematch at Over the Limit, which I also did not enjoy, the rematch at Over the Limit and the I Quit match between Miz and Cena. But this match I really did enjoy. I thought the in-ring action was great. The moment was fine with Cena winning back the belt because, again, it had been long enough since John Cena was champion that it did not feel like it was overdone or oversaturated, whatever, back to the status quo, as CM Punk would say. And then to make matters even better, after the matchup, John Cena took the mic and broke the news of the death of Osama bin Laden, which of course it was already well known by this point. The news had broken like over the course of the night, but I don't know if this was the way that I found out. I'm not exactly sure, but it made for an amazing moment. Like after such a great pay-per-view, a new WWE champion crowned, Mr. USA himself, John Cena, winning, and I don't want to see people saying, John Cena was going to lose and Miz was going to retain, but after the news of bin Laden dying, they wanted to have Mr. USA win. I never really got that impression. There was a slight chance that was the case, but I highly doubt it. I think the case was the entire time that Cena was going to win the belt on the show, because I think he did pin Miz, but the involvement of Morrison and stuff was so well done, there was really no other way. That Miz retaining would not have really made that much sense. John Cena, in all honesty, probably should have just won the belt at WrestleMania after the shitty match they had with Miz. And this match was far and beyond so much better than that. This whole pay-per-view was, for the most part. But it was a really good main event. And after breaking news of the death of Osama bin Laden, it was such a monumental moment for the people in attendance and watching worldwide. I mean, it might not make that much of a difference for someone watching, not in the United States, but for the people in the States. I mean, of course it's going to mean something to everyone watching the show across the world, but it really meant something to us in the States as John Cena broke the announcement. I thought it was an amazing moment and an amazing way of going out the show after an excellent show. Like I said before, and that's not the only reason why I enjoyed this show, but it was a very fitting, fantastic ending to one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, because it was a very well-rounded show. There were very few things to complain about, aside from the country whipping match, which, I mean, was it a step above the match at WrestleMania? Yes, I mean, I know that's not saying much, but I'd rather watch this match 100 times over than have to watch their WrestleMania match again. That's for fucking sure. And again, the involvement of JR made that kind of somewhat tolerable. But the rest of the card really filled its way out really, really well. Like the tag team title match was kind of filler and throwaway, but it served the purpose. And the rest of the card I thought was fantastic. Orton and Punk, an excellent last man standing match. Not very often you can say that. Not many great last man standing matches in the last couple of years. This was definitely one of them. Kingston and Sheamus, a nice fun little matchup with Kingston winning his second U.S. championship. Rey Mysterio and Cody Rhodes having a very good Falls Count Anywhere matchup. Layla and Michelle McCool having one of the better women's matches in recent memory. Could have benefited from some more time, would have probably taken away the tag team title match and given these ladies more time. But that aside, though, I thought it was a really good matchup. Michelle McCool's final matchup and Karma's debut. Christian and Del Rio, can't praise that match enough. You already know what my thoughts on that matchup was. And, just a fantastic matchup. And if there's one match from this show you need to go back and watch, it's that one. I know I'm biased because I'm a Christian mark, I'm a Christian peep. But even if you're not a Christian peep, you'll enjoy the matchup and the moment that comes out of it. And the main event was also really entertaining as well. Pretty underrated in my opinion. A lot of people don't really care for it that much, but I thought it was a really good main event to a great pay-per-view. So absolutely, I would suggest to you that you go out of your way to watch this pay-per-view. And I know Extreme Rules 2015 is now come and gone. It's 48 hours removed from the 2015 Extreme Rules pay-per-view. But you should still go out of your way to watch the Extreme Rules pay-per-views from years past, because there's a lot of good ones out there, and I'm going to continue to review them. I'm not going to talk about 2015. Usually I wait a year in order to talk about past pay-per-views, because otherwise a week later it doesn't have that same retrospective feel that it does than it would a year later instead of a few days afterwards. You know what I mean? So I'll be back on Saturday with my review of Extreme Rules 2012, which was an equally excellent Extreme Rules pay-per-view. I thought that was also an awesome event, which you should check out and check out my review of as well this coming Saturday. But my favorite pay-per-view, Extreme Rules-wise, not the best, not saying it's the best, but there's a significant difference between best and favorite, remains the 2011 installment. I had a hell of a time watching it back. Hopefully you will as well. So in the meantime, in the between time, folks, you guys can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews, on Twitter at WrestleRant. You can find me at nextEraWrestling.net for my full reviews, written reviews of Raw, SmackDown, Main Event Superstars, NXT, TNA Impact, Lucha Underground, and everything else in between, and some awesome guest columns as well by RJ Marceau, John Knapp, Thomas Brunt, and so many other great guys. So make sure to check out nextEraWrestling.net for that. And of course, make sure to share, subscribe, like, and comment. All support is greatly appreciated. As I said before, I'll be back on Saturday with my full review of Extreme Rules 2012. And until then, guys, have a great week, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.